there are so many people, and people are always like moving and doing work. When people see you with a camera, they really get anxious.
It's not easy.
What are the big challenges you are facing?
In the right time for the right subject, and when they come, you can just take the photo.
Oh, it's so great, but they cannot see the history.
The part of the world that it's famous for being crowded.
If I don't get a subject in that place right away, I would go back again and wait for right person to walk there, and just wait there and take the photo.
Hello everyone, welcome to Girafa podcast show. I'm Jay, and today we have another episode with two interesting people. One of them is going to be my partner in this show. Sanama is going to be the second host or the main host. It's okay. And we have another photographer and editor, Ashraful, and he's going to introduce himself more, but you shouldn't miss this show. He has an amazing picture. They were so amazing. I know it's so beautiful. So we're going to talk with him about the pictures and his experience. But first of all, I want Ashraful to introduce yourself, and then we're going to be with Sanama.
Hey everyone, and thank you so much for having me. And I'm Ashraful, and I am a photographer based in Dhaka, Bangladesh. I started my photography journey back in 2013, and I started doing it like a 365 photography project, and kind of got hooked with this whole photography journey. And from ever since, I'm doing it like I'm working as a freelance photographer, and mostly I try to work with people and street life, and I try to capture something that's like in usual eyes we usually tend to ignore, and the moments that really like simple and taken from everyday life. That's what I try to represent with my photography frames, and just try to show everyone that the world is still beautiful, and it's those little moments that make our life happy. So that's my motto, and that's what I try to capture through my works. Yeah, that's a bit about me.
Thank you. And I just want to say that we don't have some simple host. She is a professional in the photography, and so thank you, Sanama, and welcome. And we are so happy to know you more.
Thank you very much. Thanks for letting me be your co-host in your podcast. Nice to meet you all. I'm Sanama. I'm food photographer and food stylist, Lisbon-based, and I'm happy to be here.
I'm going to start the question, but Sanama, it's up to you if you just cut me off if you have a question, because you are a professional. But first question for me is from Ashraful. You said that it's right now is your main job.
Mm-hmm.
But why did you choose this as a job, and why did you choose this type of subject as your job?
Well, first of all, I have always been like, I always wanted to be an artist, and I started my journey as a fine art student. And then what happened is that I kind of got frustrated with the process, and I wanted to try something new, and that's how I got into photography. And when I started photography, it really gave me that sort of freedom and happiness. And I kind of wanted to do it for the rest of my life. And I have always wanted to do something that I personally will feel proud and joy doing it. So photography is something that really makes me feel that. So that's the reason why I decided to make it my profession also. And the second is that the answer to your second question is that I don't know, like one of the things was, I have always, when I was a fine art student, I was very much inspired by the paintings, the genre paintings. It's called, and what happened in those paintings that the painters of ancient, Dutch painters, they tried to, uh, you know, they tried to paint the daily life of people and show it in a more artistic manner. So that really made me really inspired, and I wanted to create something like that. And when I looked at my surrounding areas, especially the communities in South Asia, I wanted to do the same thing with my painting. But instead, when I got into photography, I thought that, why not take an everyday element and represent them in a more artistic and painterly manner. So that's how this whole new style, the kind of style I have, that feel, and that's how it started. And this is something I really am passionate about, and I'd like to represent our daily life in a painterly technique and painterly manner. So yeah, that's how is my technique, and that's what I do. Yeah.
What's in the daily life? What you looking for?
I think most when I'm on the street, I try to look for some little moments, like, something like maybe someone is taking a little break from their work, and something that's a bit more emotive, and something I can like, from that moment you can express some emotions. For example, like someone is going back to home after work, or interacting with their friends, or just like, a bit lost in their thoughts, in those little moments, because I feel like every human being has these sort of little moments. So, but we often overlook and don't pay much attention to it. But these are the little moments that really, make our life, altogether. It makes that big moment, and just celebrate little moments of human life. So yeah.
Okay, Salma, do you have any question?
Yes, indeed. Because I think with the way of your photography, just capturing those like smooth moments, what are the big challenges you are like facing? Is it something you really pre-plan for that photo, or just come at a moment that you have your camera, you just see and you wait for the right things? What are the challenges as a photographer?
I think the one challenge every day I face is that to finding those moments. And another thing is that, especially, I shoot a lot of photos in congested areas and overpopulated areas, like the streets of Dhaka, in India, in Nepal. So what happened is that there are so many people, and people are always like moving and doing work. It's really hard to find those kind of intimate moments and personal moments. And another thing is that when people see you with a camera, they really get anxious, sometimes conscious, and it's really hard to find people who's not looking at the camera and just being themselves. So that's one challenge I always face. But what I personally do is just like, when I'm in a street, I kind of roam around, let the people and know about my presence. And once like everyone is comfortable, they are not noticing me much. That time I kind of wait and look for those moments. And also I use a very telephoto lens that really helps me to kind of take photos from a distance without disrupting people's personal space. So I think that also helps, and that's what I personally do. Like I would go on the street and wait for my subject, wait for a right moment, and just once I find it, I just try to click it as soon as possible. So yeah,
it just came to my mind. It's when you are going out and you see something, you're gonna make it, or you're gonna just find it. Sometimes. Because I'm not a professional in your job, so sometimes I see the people, they try to set up the frame. For example, maybe Sanam knows what I'm talking about. For example, if you want to do, you may set up, but when you're going to the street, you cannot do that. So you must be so creative to find a specific angle. But this type of the picture, you're gonna find something, or I'm gonna ask you how, if it's finding, how you're finding them, or if it's making, how you're gonna make it. Because I'm gonna show some picture you send it to us. It's I've never seen something like this before.
Well, for me, the process, it takes a bit of like preparation also, and also practice, of course. Like I've been doing this for a while, and always like the more you practice, the more you know where to go, how to do it, which angle to shoot. So for me, what I personally do, I usually do a lot of location scouting. For example, let's say I'm on the street. So I try to find, some interesting places where the light is falling really beautifully, where I'll get some really beautiful backlight, where the composition looks good. And another one of my favorite places to go is the narrow alleyways, because of those narrow, walls and everything, it looks really good in the composition. So I try to find those kind of areas. And once I have, let's say I have find a spot where the light is really beautiful and the composition looks really well, I keep a note in my mind, and I usually, what I do, if I don't get a subject in that place right away, I would go back again and wait for a right person to walk there, and just wait there and take the photo. So most of the time it takes a lot of these kind of preparations and knowing what to shoot, where to shoot, and also like observing really helps. Like when I'm on the street, I try to observe a lot of like different lighting angles, how the light in that particular space affecting people, how it's falling on my subject. So all these kind of observations really help to know that, okay, exactly what I want and how I will get it. So, and another thing also is important is the time of the day. Knowing that which time of the day the light is more perfect and I can get the kind of shoot I want. So when you have all these informations, you can just wait there and in the right time for the right subject, and when they come, you can just take the photo. So that's one of my way to do it. And another thing is sometimes you have to use your intuition, and once you're doing it for a while, when you're on a new street or new spot, you kind of know that what you personally want. And I think that really makes you kind of get the photo easily. So I would say it's a mix of pre-planning, preparations, and also like practice.
I have a question. When I look at your photos, it's really fine art and photography. It's like nowadays artificial intelligence gives us
that was a word I was looking for.
Smooth way. I'm just curious to know, now that we have this artificial intelligence that can help us like getting ideas, do you think, or are you using it for some destination, for some specific photos that you want just to pre-plan for you, or not?
I'm not really using it at all. And another thing is that I personally find it, yes, you can, there are like some things you can really use, take advantage of the AI generated images, especially like, let's say you have a vision and you want to see how it would look in the photos, so you can get the idea and see how it would look. But personally, I just feel like that I like the element of surprise when I'm photographing. So with AI, I don't really want it to take away from me. So for me, it's still 100% traditional way, going to the street, trying to find my subjects. I personally like to work like that. And I think that really gives me that sort of thrill, that, and knowing that, let's say I'm going out on a street and I just don't know what I'll get. I don't have any idea. So I kind of like that sort of, surprise. And for AI, I think personally, I'm not really still into that, because I feel like the AI images, they still don't have that kind of soul that human made images have. So I'm more into like trying to refine my personal craft and like my photography. But yeah, I do understand your point that AI might be like, for getting ideas, it's really great. But for me, I think that, and also another thing is that I've been doing it for a while and I already know that what kind of images I like, what kind of places I like. Already have that sort of idea in me. So still, I don't need the AI yet. So yeah, but who knows about the future, right? So yeah, let's see.
I was interviewing with the other guy. He was mostly he was a nature photographer. He was talking about the journey he had when he decided to be as a part of this job, not as a hobby. And he was explaining about for a while he didn't have the money to buy stuff, and so it's this kind of the problem. Probably it's happened for everyone when they decide to be independent. But what about you? When you start your job, what was your difficulty? And the second part is, have you ever had this situation when you bought something and then you regret it? Oh, okay, what should I buy? Well, maybe that the other one is, or maybe you didn't buy and then you find out, okay, maybe I should buy that one. I really like to know that, because some people, they're just looking right now to you and say, oh, it's so great, but they cannot see the history. Most of the time I'm asking the people, what's happened to you during this journey to be here?
Well, I think that it's a story of every creative person. I think, we all go through some sort of struggles and hardships. For me, the biggest challenge was to, doing it from a country where pursuing a creative career is supposed to be really dangerous, and they think that you can't really be successful doing it full time. That was one of the biggest challenges for me, especially getting the support from your family, your friends. That was I would say, for me, that was the biggest thing, because everybody here is they don't really, when I started, they really didn't consider creative, photography or being an artist is really something you should be doing, and for a secure future or for social security. So everyone around me was really trying to stop me, trying to say that no, you shouldn't be doing it, I think. And also it's really inexpensive. If you think about as a hobby, it's really expensive, especially for us photographers, the gears, the computer, this and that, they're everywhere. It's just so much to pay for. And so yeah, that was one big challenge. And another was I would say, especially after when I started doing it professionally, getting my kind of job, and especially here in Bangladesh, it's really, really difficult to make it as a full-time professional creative photographer, because they don't really pay much, and the scale they pay, it's really, really still very low. So what I did, I always wanted to one thing was for me that I knew that this is something I'm good at, and I wasn't really interested in any other thing, any other professional stuff. So I just had to do it for my own sake and for my own personal happiness. So yeah, I would say for me, the biggest challenge was to get the kind of support, and yeah, just pushing through all those things was the most difficult part. But yeah, but I think it's almost all the professionals out there, they at some point they do face some things like that. So yeah,
I want to ask you another question, and then I'm going to show some picture. Do you remember your first job offer?
Yes.
I was looking for that smile.
It was actually very interesting. I think so. When I started doing photography, I'm actually primarily a still life photographer. I started doing, because I was very shy about going out and taking my camera in public places. So I started my journey as a still life photographer. I still shoot still lifes for book covers and things. So and I started doing these photos, and I always wanted to be like published as a book cover artist. So I was doing these kind of works, and I left art school suddenly and just started this photography hobby. So what happened is like someone from my family, they asked me that like if you're doing all these things, what's good it going to be? Like it's not going to make you any money. It's not going to give you something. So I don't know. Like I had some little fight with them, and I was like very confused. Like I was just following my instinct and following my concepts. I was just creating for myself, and I wasn't even sure about what will happen. And so after I think about 2 or 3 months, I posted some of my photos online on 500px, and that time, like after a while, I got a mail from an editor from HarperCollins. So they told that they found my image on 500px, and they think that it will look very well with an upcoming novel. And if I can shoot a cover photo for them. So that was like my first actual, like really well paid job as a photographer. And I think it was more about like what you project and what you're really passionate about, and you tell that to the universe, and the universe actually works for you. It was kind of that kind of moment. So yeah, like that was like doing that book cover image for HarperCollins. That was my like actual first paid photography gig, and yeah, that's how everything started, and actually made me realize that yes, like if you believe in yourself, if you really want something, it will happen eventually. You just have to work hard.
But I have a question from you. What do you remember your first job offer, Sanama?
From me?
Yeah.
Yes. My journey is completely different because photography, unfortunately, was not my main profession. So I'm civil engineer. I'm a PhD student. I was at the beginning of Corona, when we were all like locked down and staying home. I just got bored. I started to take photos of whatever was on the table, whatever I was cooking. At that time, if you remember, in a lockdown, like we didn't have even pasta in the supermarket anymore. So we really had to do everything from scratch. And I opened up a new Instagram account with name Sanama Foodie. And I started doing everything and taking photos. So the first project I got was from a very big brand in Portugal. It's a supermarket chain. It's with the name Continent. I was like 1,300 followers, like really nothing. But I received from them a proposal for taking photos of bio pasta with all the ingredients from their brand. So of course, happily I accepted. It was like a funny miracle happening, and it gives me not really that much money, but it gives me exposure for more people from Portugal to see what I'm doing and entering the market. So it was early stage of COVID and my first project.
Yeah, I usually ask this question from the guest, because I studied psychology. So most of the time we can see the people that are just watching a video, watching some successful people, and say, okay, I'm going to be like this. And they start the job because they are so high in that kind of the hormones, and everything is very high. And they have, okay, I can do that. It doesn't look very difficult. So I'm going to buy a camera, for example, or I'm going to start shooting. But maybe in the same time, millions of people, they start to be a photographer, but it's going to be less and less and less to be successful. The point is, sometimes I try to show that it's not easy that be a success. It's you need to sacrifice. You need to be more patient or try hard. It's not that much easy to just, okay, I want to do this, and tomorrow you have a job offer or something like this. mostly trying to ask the people to show that this is the road you must pass. So I'm gonna show some picture there. Amazing. And Sanamo, you said you have a question about that. So this is the first. Can you explain it, Chef? Where is it, and what's happening here?
Yeah, sure. So this was shot on a street in the old quarter of Dhaka, and actually this was up right after the COVID situation got a bit better, and we were allowed to go out and go outside. So I was like, this was from my first photo walk after COVID. So I got in that street, and there was this little light coming through this narrow alleyway, and I took this photo of a rickshaw puller. And for me, this photo was like, it's like, kind of like a reflection of that situation, that moment, that it's like finally after this dark period, a little light is coming through, and we are getting out, getting used to in the normal life. So yeah, that's about it. And I took this photo of this rickshaw puller, and it was like like these streets were really people-less and empty during the COVID situation. And finally, it got filled with people and filled with life. So yeah, that's mostly about this photo.
So I have a question, because when I'm looking at this photo, it's kind of dark mood photography, at the same time mysterious. It's like someone is sneaking out for the right time of the light, for the right shadow. I believe you put your setups for the photos to be underexposed and then count on your post-processing, if I'm not mistaken. Tell us more about your favorite setting.
Well, in camera, I tend to go for taking photos underexposed. One of the things is that, first of all, I shoot raw. So it already gives me a lot of information to kind of going to the editing section and, increase the exposure. So for me, what happens is that here, especially when I'm shooting in the particular time of the day, for example, I try to shoot around like 3 p.m. to 5 p.m. So sometimes the light is really beautiful, but at the same time, the highlights gets really harsh and blown away. This is why when I'm shooting, I try to capture it underexposed and try to make sure that the highlights are really, I can capture the details in the highlights, and they are much softer. So that's why sometimes I get darker images, but then when I'm in the post-production, I can just increase the shadows and still capturing the highlights and keeping the details. So that's my personal favorite setting, that always I try to shoot a bit few stops underexposed, and then in the editing section I increase the details in the shadow areas. So that's how I kind of get a more softer and much more smooth transition between shadows and highlights.
Okay, let's go to the next one.
Yeah, this one was actually shot from a bridge, and this is actually shot in the river in Dhaka. It's called Buriganga. It's like the main river in the Dhaka and surrounding areas. So I was up on a bridge, and from that bridge there was and from under the bridge, these are called water taxis. So people use these sort of small boats to kind of transport their goods and for crossing the rivers from the river. And I was on top of a bridge, and I took this shot with a 105 millimeter telephoto lens, so that this is why it looks a bit from a much more closer. And I used another thing, because of that, the texture of that water came from the lenses. I used a very high aperture of f1.4. So I think the morning light and the water is actually, the thing is that this water is actually pretty thick, because when I took this photo, the river water used to be a bit polluted with industrial materials, oils, because there are like some of the industries around this riverside, so they kind of throw their materials in the river water. So this is why that's why the river water was very thick that time, and the sunlight reflecting it kind of made it look like, especially with the lenses aperture, large aperture, it kind of made it look like the water is actually more like a silk fabric. So
Exactly.
that texture really, the light really gave it, the light and the thick water really gave that texture. So that's how I got it. Yeah.
For your post production, what is the limit not to like overdo it, like to make it with too much edits? And what are the softwares like Photoshop, Lightrooms? What are the things you use?
I sometimes I use both. I mostly use Adobe Photoshop. So first, my basic, the way I start is I start doing regular adjustment in Adobe Camera Raw, and from there I take it to Photoshop and do the other like color grading and things. And also sometimes I use Lightroom also. So my rule is that I try to make it look like more like a painting rather than a photograph. But at the same time, I want to make sure that the essence of daily life, essence of that surrounding areas really, stays the same. For example, like let's say that if for example, like the last photo, actually, all I did was for this photo, I actually just added a bit more blue tint to it. Usually, when I took this photo, the water already looked a bit blue because all those materials and the way sunlight made it look like. So all I did was just increase the blue a bit and made it increase the oranges in the boat, just to make sure that it looks more like contrasting colors, so that they both kind of stand out. So what I do is I take the element, the color from the whatever it is in the photo already, and just try to adjust it and maybe like increase the vibrance a bit, or the saturation a bit, or sometimes just decrease the color a bit. My main target is to make my subject pop up a bit more and give the full attention to it. So for that, sometimes I kind of increase or decrease the colors. So personally, I think that there's no rule actually, but for me, as long as it looks like, yes, the colors are not really looking oversaturated and overly unnatural, I'm okay. I stop there until it goes to that point. But usually what I do is like I try to also it depends on the subject also. Sometimes like I try to find that kind of subject that, for example, like in this boat, for example, there are like other people crossing the river and they were wearing really colorful outfits, but I intentionally chose these two-person because they were like wearing blue shirt, and I knew that it will incorporate well with the watercolor and it will give that sort of. So it's all about like in 90% I would say it's about selecting your subject, what they're wearing, how the surrounding colors and everything affecting with them, and then just adjusting and making some adjustment in the post-production to make it pop it a bit more. So yeah, that's how I go about color grading and images.
Interesting. Impressive. Thank you.
Yeah, the first time when I saw the pictures, they're painting or they're pictures. So because of that, it's interesting for me. Okay, and this is the painting. This is the picture.
So this person is actually he's a local street sculptor, and he creates like are you familiar with Durga Puja or the Hindu festival of they worship the goddesses? So he kind of makes all these idols, and it was actually shot at the Durga Puja and the biggest Hindu festival. So you can see in this photo on his right there are like little statues of the idols. They are still in the work. So he was actually working, and usually like there are like a few dogs around him. They're like he actually they're like his pet dogs. So I was just going through that street, and I kind of had a look into his shop, and I saw that he's really working so attentively, and he just didn't pay any attention who was walking through the door and things. So he was just so much into his work, and the dogs were just laying around him. So these are like, those lucky moments you see everything in front of you. It's like already set up for you. So I just stand there and took his shots. He was so much into his work, he didn't notice me at all. He didn't even know that I was there. So I was just like taking his photos. It's like artists at work, and behind him the photos of these idols of gods and goddesses, the pictures of gods and goddesses, and overall it looked like a really, like a beautiful frame with the person. It's like the whole room was filled with an artistic soul. It's like the artist workshop, and everything there, it's like making connection with God himself. So that's why it felt really interesting to me.
If you know that someone watching you, or there is a camera or anything, unconsciously you're gonna change your acting. You're gonna, if for example, if I'm in the room alone, I'm gonna be myself. But if I think, oh, there's a camera but nobody's here, I'm gonna change, even walking. And so this one. So I was thinking about that when you said that he didn't know that I was there. So that's a moment that's moment, it's pure, and it's that the human is going to be alone with himself and doing whatever they really love, and you said that they're into it. It's the picture is full of the moment when you, at the beginning, you mentioned that. So yeah, I just want to say that it's very interesting for me. It's very beautiful.
This was also shot on a street on Old Dhaka, and it happened like I was just passing through streets trying to find some subjects and things, and suddenly I saw from a distance that this man was just sitting there, and there was this dog around his feet, and he was actually petting the dog with his feet.
Oh.
No, he was actually rubbing his feet over the dog. The dog was actually sleeping, and he was basically petting the dog, and he was with one hand he was just smoking, and he was so much lost in his thought he didn't even notice what was going around. So I just quickly stand there, took the photo. That's how it happened. And yeah, it's more like they both were like so much comfortable, so much into their own thought, the dog and the man, both of them. So it's like a little moment of like taking a break from everyday life and just getting lost in your your thought and just getting lost in the moment. So yeah,
the guy doesn't understand that you are around. Do you generally approach to people after taking photos that they are presented and showing them that you did a photo of them, or not? You just take and pass? Like, is there any conversation between you and the subject?
It depends on the places, and sometimes, like for example, like sometimes, most of the time, I take the photo and I just walk away, because for me it's more about getting them, and not really, I don't really want to interrupt their whatever that moment they are in. For example, let's say that I think them as myself. For example, let's say that I'm just having a tea after my day break, and I wouldn't want someone to come to me and like say something to me and just break that moment, because I am so much into that moment. So I just don't want to get interrupted. So that thing really gets in my head. So most of the time I just take the photo and they don't even notice, I walk away. Sometimes it happens that when they notice, if they notice, and if they like they are intrigued by what I did. So if that happens, I just smile to them and just sometimes go towards them and show them this is what I did. You don't need to worry about anything, or it's just a beautiful photo I took. So yeah, it depends on the situation, but most of the time I tend not to interrupt their moments and just walk away.
Oh my god. What's happened here?
Okay, so this photo actually, one of the thing happened was this was actually, there was a bit of planning involved in this photo, because what happened is one day I was taking photos of this narrow alleyway, and I saw these little, shop. What do you call it? I don't understand. Like the thing you cover for sunlight. They're like
Shade.
yes, shades. Sorry. So there are like shades around the shops. So I thought that if it rains, it would be really cool because the rainwater will pour down through those shades and create some sort of like rain curtains. So I had this idea in my mind that if it rains, one day I will come back and take photos here. So luckily, in that day, I was really waiting for a heavy rain. So this was shot in monsoon season, and suddenly there were like forecast of heavy rain for like 2-3 hours. So like I thought that yes, today's the day I have to go back to that place and take photos. So I just rushed towards that place, and it was really heavy raining. And exactly what I imagined, it was like rain water pouring down, making these like little curtain shapes. So I was just waiting there for people to come through that way, and just waiting to take their photo. And luckily, I saw this man. He was like coming through, and he just you can see closely that he has this sort of a bag of, I think, rice or something in his hand. This was actually shot inside a spice market, and people were like still in the rain. They were like buying and selling stuffs. So this man was just like passing through this walkway with his umbrella and whatever he bought, and there was like little light falling on his body, and it's like overall it looked like a real good mission. And I was just taking there and taking photos. That's how this picture came together.
Okay, the next one. Oh, it's election.
Okay. So yeah, yeah. So because of the election, there are like posters and papers all over this area. And when I looked at it, it's like the whole thing, the posters and everything, it already made like a very good, beautiful composition. And I was just standing there. It was shot in early in the morning. There was not really so many people. So I was just waiting there for someone interesting to come through that street. And then I saw this woman. Usually, what they do, you can see that they have this sort of pots and gallons in her hand, because what they do in Old Dhaka, in some street, they don't have really like a regular source of drinking water. So they go to from one place to another place to collect water, and they take this sort of like lots of bottles and gallons, and they fill them up, and they just take it back to their home for a whole day use. So that's why this woman was carrying so many gallons, and it looked really interesting to me. Like she's like, at this like kind of, she seems so strong and determined, and it really made me feel like a really interesting subject. So yeah, that's how it came out.
Here, among the elections, some the poor people still they need to find the water.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, this was actually a bit different, and this was shot in a floating market in Borishal. It's a district in Bangladesh, and during rainy season, they have this like 1,000 years old floating market, and it only in rainy season there's like for 2 months they sell only guavas. So you can see that it's actually guavas field in this boat. And like it's really interesting scene, because during this time it's like it gets all green with all the guavas, and the boats are filled with them, and it's really a very interesting sight. And I actually shot this photo from a bridge. There was a like small bridge on top of this backwater, and this man was passing through with his boat filled with guavas. Okay, so this one was actually this was in another district called Sri Mangal. It's the tea capital of Bangladesh. Like it's filled with tea gardens, and there is this beautiful railway track through the forest. And this person is actually a tribal person. He's a part of this called Khashia tribe. So they usually use this trackways and to to get vegetables and other goods to their families on top of the hill. So I kind of saw this man coming through this pathway, and since it's through a forest, the light is really, really beautiful. Especially you can see these light rays. They were actually in camera shot, and the light is actually almost every time it looks like the same in that place. So it's really a very great place for photograph. And that time the train didn't also come, so it was really quiet and nice, just inside the forest. Really, really, really beautiful, and it's actually a very famous place. Actually, you will find the name because the movie Around the World was actually shot inside this forest. Yeah, so this was actually in the ship breaking yard in Dhaka. Basically, what they do, they kind of, when they find these old ships, they take it down. They take it down this area, and they kind of start and rebuild the ships to a new one, and they reuse the ships.
Uh-huh.
So that was happening. The men were like cutting the ship, the older ships, and they will turn it into something new, more new ones for the passengers. And basically, these ships are like smaller ships. They kind of use them for transport to through the rivers from one district to another. So that's what happened. It was during the evening time, and still everyone was working. And I kind of liked how it turned out with the the warmth of the fire, with the in contrast with the blue of the evening sky. So yeah, this is actually a very interesting festival. It's called Rakher Upabash. Basically, there's like a Hindu saint. His name is Loknath Brahmachari. So his followers started this tradition. Every year, the last 2 weeks of Bengali month, a certain Bengali month called Kartik, they do this sort of festival, and they kind of like fast for the whole day, and they break their fast in the evening, and they kind of pray with oil lamps, and this smoke is actually from incense. So they do this all kind of festival with incense and oil lamps. That really, when they lit everything together, it looks really like otherworldly. So that's why like it's a very famous spot for photographers, and everywhere like tons of photographers go there from different parts of country, and also from other countries. And it looks really, really amazing, and like everything looks really painterly in that festival. So yeah, I was there and took this photo.
Oh, it should be the tea farm, yes?
Yes. It's the same place I talked about, the Sri Mangal, the tea capital. The whole city is just like filled with these tea gardens, and it started since the British period, and still it's like the biggest tea plantation in the country. And these are the tea workers. They every day they take like tea leaves and work from day to night, day to evening. So yeah,
They are so beautiful.
thank you.
Okay, what's happening here?
Okay, so this was in a coastal area in Cox's Bazar, Bangladesh. The water you are seeing in his side, it's actually from the salt. It's from salt farm. During the rainy season, the salt fields get filled with water. So that's why it looks like a river or something, but usually it's just salt land. And he was just like a farmer there. He was going through this road, and there was like in another side of the river, this place, there's an island. So he was going to his home there after a day's work, and it was rainy season, you can see this sort of clouds and kind of like a more moody atmospheric weather. So, and I kind of liked how it looked, and he was also wearing some sort of like these contrasting colors, so it looked really good in the camera. So that's why I took this photo. It's like just like documenting the place and the people.
Okay, another
rain shot.
shot.
It's like almost this story is almost like the another one, because like I kind of stumble into this little street, and it looked like, with all the rains coming through the shades of the tops, it kind of made it look like very interesting texture and more like a curtain. It's like rain curtain. And the rickshaw, I was just waiting for someone to pass, and I saw this rickshaw was coming through really quickly. So overall, it looked like really a good composition, and I took the photo.
Very beautiful.
Interesting.
It's so beautiful. And during you were explaining, it came to my mind. Okay, for example, if I'm going out and I say, "Oh, that's nice. Let's take a picture." But you said that, okay, I just see this, for example, street, and I say it would be nice, but if it would be rainy, so I'm gonna keep it in my mind. When it's rainy, I will back. So it's looked like a puzzle. You just got it. It's very interesting for me. So it's a piece of the art that your mind is to be design and keep it in mind. It's so beautiful, and yeah, well done.
Yeah, and for me, what makes it even more interesting is that you are giving a piece of silence from the part of the world that it's famous for being crowded. Like when I'm looking at your photos, it's like a deep breathe, and then I pause, and I even can imagine around myself the noises, but it's just a piece of silence. It's really heart touching for someone who see the photos. But if I can ask a question about all these photos that we saw, I have a question. How you maybe the right word is sell, but how you find your audience for this type of photography? For example, in the photo, it was a photo of a festival. Did you go there just for yourself to take a photo, or as a photographer, you were sponsored to go there, or it was a project that we just saw one or two photo of them?
Okay. So I think that it depends on mostly it comes from the social media, like the way I present my photos in, for example, let's say on Instagram. So most of my exposure, or like the kind of audience I have, I got from Instagram. And also, like, sometimes it happens that let's say that, for example, recently I worked for an NGO, and we went to shoot for the people in different parts of Dhaka, and also in the the Rohingya refugees. So they wanted to capture those people, but the way I do them, like more of a beautiful manner, more of a concentrating in their everyday moments. So I think that for me, social media really helped, and especially from those hashtags, and also like different posting my photos to different groups. For example, on Facebook, there are like groups for street photography. So sometimes when I posted those photos, my photos there, I also got audience from that. So I think it's a mix of both, social media strategies and how you post them. And also, I personally haven't joined in so many exhibitions yet. I have done like maybe a few handful of them, but from my experience nowadays, because since everything is getting digitalized, and people most of the time they are like looking at internet for photos. So I think that social media really has played a big role on for my kind of photos, and to get me recognized for my photos. Especially like I know that sometimes it happens. For example, when I started, there was a brand, so they mostly share travel images. But I think that the editor, they saw my photo, and they kind of wanted to do a story about Dhaka. But everywhere when they tried to find photos about Dhaka, so it was in their campaign that they will show up every single city on their story. But whenever they tried to find about photos about Dhaka, it was more about, as you said, that it was about overpopulation, it was about pollution, all those things. Like most of the time, it's negative things, and they didn't want to show it. So when they looked at my images, they searched for images, my images came through, and they suddenly saw that there was like a certain, at least I tried to show a certain beauty of the city with people, with different moments. So they kind of wanted to capture that. They told me to make a story about Dhaka, but in a more positive manner. So I did for them. From that also, I got like, captured attention from people, that there so many people has sent me message that they used to think about Dhaka is a very, very overpopulated, dirty city, but through my photos, they kind of knew that there's another side of Dhaka. There's also a beautiful side of Dhaka, of this city. So yeah, that's how everything kind of came along, and people got to know. So I think that I would give social media the 100% credit for that. So yeah, that's how I personally got exposure, and I marketed my images.
Can I ask which one is your favorite picture? Do you have, or it should be difficult maybe, but do you have any favorite in your
personally,
picture?
honestly, there are so like, every picture I take is like a little baby to me.
Yeah.
But there's one particular picture I think I have. I'll just show you quickly. It's actually on my Instagram account. It's pinned. It's the third one. I don't know if you can see it.
Just a little. Yes, we can find it in your Instagram account. We will mention it. Yes.
Yeah. So why it's so like close to my heart, because I took this photo back in 2017, and that's when I started actually traveling. And I went to Nepal and started, like, that time I wasn't even sure about my style at all. So I was kind of doing a lot of things like architecture, street people, street moments, traveling shots, different kind of things. But this one particular photo I took, and when I got back home, so when I started editing this photo, it really, like, I don't know, it just certainly gave me a different feeling. Like, I felt like I could connect myself with her. Like, I could feel that she's like having a little moment to herself. Maybe she had a really tough day. She's just starting her day. That time she might have a family to raise. Like so many, like just like so many
We
other
don't know.
people. She has stuff. Yes, but like, this is her moment. This is the moment she's just like, being herself, just soaking the sunlight. This is her little happy moment. She's not thinking about anything negative thing. She's not thinking about the struggles she has to go through. Like, I could feel like I'm connected to her. So that's the moment I knew that these are the kind of photos, because this made me personally feel so connected with my subject, and this really made me so happy and just like so emotional. So I felt like yes, this is the kind of photos, this is the kind of work I will do, because I have never felt so much connected with any other thing, any other subject in my life before. So this photo actually made me realize who I am as an artist, my compassion for people, my compassion for my passion for these little moments. And so this is why this photo will always be very close to my heart, because this photo is like giving me that opportunity to understand myself a bit more. So yeah, for that reason, I put this photo for my favorite one.
It's a moment we need that live in the moment. So that's
Yes.
why you took it. Thank you so much, both of you, especially you and your beautiful and amazing picture. But I want to ask, if you want to give us that someone wants to be in this part of this journey, do you have any tips they can follow?
I think for me, I would say that especially in today's world, there are like so many competitions, and with so much going on in digital world and everything, sometimes it gets a bit frustrating and like overwhelming. But I would say that just follow your heart and always create what you personally want to create, not because it's trending or not because people want to see it more, not because social media is promoting it more. Because at the end, what's more important is that as an artist, if you are happy, and it's more about your individual voice and your story through your work. So one tip I would always give to someone who is, especially who is starting, just follow your own heart and just do what you personally want to do, because in art there is no right or wrong way, there's always yours way. That's the beauty about art. So always follow your own way, always follow your own heart, and at the end, and with hard work and passion, you will succeed. So yeah, that's my personal tips.
Thank you. So it was so nice. Yeah, Sanam.
I have a question, because for people who are watching this podcast and they're interested in your art and in your fine arts, I would like to know that if like the high quality print of your photos is something available, and how people can get to you for those photos. It's through your website, or
Yes,
can you
yes.
give us some more details?
Yes, sure. Recently, I have started doing my own fine art limited edition prints, and the link is on my Instagram bio. People can definitely go and check.
We will
there.
mention it in the video. Yeah.
Yes, get the prints from there. And I started like keeping my prints really limited because I want to give them the utmost quality possible, highest quality possible, and the prints are really like it's printed on the highest quality Hanamul G-clay papers, and it's certified to stays the same for 100 years, and it's really great quality of like. For me, it was more about like my photos. I tend to make them look like more like a painting. So in print also they should look like a painting rather than just a regular photograph. So this is why I, from paper to printing to presentation to everything, it's like it's designed in a way that when you receive the print or when you get the print, you'll feel like you have received an actual artwork that will be like archival and will stay with you forever. So yeah, that's one thing that, and the link is on my website. People can check, and everything, every detail about the prints and everything is there. So yeah, from that people can see, and also the examples are on my Instagram Reels and account also. So from there also people can check.
It was so interesting as about the picture and about the conversation. It was so interesting, and I hope to see you again. And that's a part, if you want to say something at the end, the mic is for you, Sanama and Ashraful.
Thank you very much for having me today here as a co-host. And I really hope to see you two again together in this show, if I'm invited or not, because I know that it's not only the art of photo, but the art of cinematic videography is as well something that I'm a huge fan. And I was just looking at the other Instagram that you have, and I was just like, oh my God, this is amazing. So for your future plan, if you have more time, we would be happy to discuss about the art of your videography as well.
Yeah, and thank you so much for having me, you too. And
My pleasure.
It was really lovely chatting with you and sharing my insights and everything about my art. So thank you so much for having me, and I really hope to see you again soon. And yeah, and best of wishes for you and for you too. And yeah, have a great day, and thanks again. Thank you again so much.
Thank you so much, and I hope to see you all again, and have a nice day everywhere in the world.